All right, so we're going to dive in today to none other than Meta. And Meta is making some interesting moves right now. Some people may say this might be their last hurrah before Facebook finally does a face plant. We'll find out if that is truly the case. We'll dive in deep and why this matters, not only to crypto, but to the metaverse in general. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. Today, we're going to, of course, get into all this good stuff around Meta, where it's going. Lots of good breakdowns here. We'll take a little bit of a look at the stock itself. But also, I just want to mention our sponsor for today, our channel partner, which is Gala Games. Make sure and check out Spider Tanks. They've got a brand new launch on Spider Tank coming on Monday, the 31st. So if you are looking at trying to maybe make your first foray into gaming in the metaverse and starting to really understand what this means for the future of gaming, your one-stop shop is going to be gala.games.com. So make sure and check them out. We'll leave a link below in the description. You can get into all that good stuff. And let's get into it today because there's a lot happening right now. I'll just lead off with one of my own tweets. I mean, come on, let's just try to dive in right there. So this is something I put out yesterday. Securities may have just opened the door for the Fed to not pivot. The pain is the beginning. Bitcoin crypto hopefully maybe next. And I say hopefully, meaning in the sense that we get a chance to buy it maybe at the best price ever. A couple of charts here just quickly. Here was the total cost and expenses for Meta. And you can kind of see this thing rising. Look at this rising tide of money that is just being poured out of Meta and into what? They're moving into what is, I believe, the next evolution of the internet. What do these people think it's going to cost? A couple of apples, maybe, a few $1 million here and there. What they're trying to do is pretty amazing. But they did not get appreciated for that because the stock, this was yesterday afternoon. Here was the after hours. So you can kind of see the fall off right there. Boom! Man, what a crush Meta took. And it's continuing to dive today, now under $100. So let's dive into a lot of this. Now let's remember that Jim Cramer was one of those who was presenting Meta and buying it as this is kind of the future. Yes, go, go, go. Buy Meta, buy Meta. And here he is just here this week. Meta bought back $6.5 billion as free cash flow, dropped off the face of the earth. I did not see this company. I trusted its management, and that was ill-advised. Ill-advised, I tell you. Now I feel like Kramer. I feel like I need one of those buttons. Buy, 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 or not is the question. So a lot happening within it. Here's the report on the third quarter. Let me kind of zoom in on a couple of things here in their third quarter results. You can see their revenue numbers, 2022 versus 21, down 4%. You've got costs and expenses. This is where it gets out of control for them. Income and operations. This is some crazy moves right now. So I think, when you look at what they're trying to do, this is a problem that we will continue to see, unfortunately, for Meta in a very short order, in the sense that now, how long can they go this direction of continuing to spend this much money and not really getting into results? There's two ways you can look at this. There's a lot of analysts we're going to break down today. I'll kind of give you some input on this of where I think this is going. But I still believe that Meta is possibly the number one company that could create a very unique and interesting blockchain integration. And if we are looking at anyone out there, now Twitter, of course, now under Musk, they could also do it, but they just don't have the critical mass. Okay, so just remember critical mass, plus they don't have devices, those kind of things matter. And the ability to kind of go to the next level, very important. I think Zuckerberg's, I hate to say it, I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg as an individual, but as a tech executive, you can't really deny what he's been able to do so far. Now, is he going to be right on this? That's still a question mark, sure. But I'm a technologist. I believe that technology only moves forward. It never goes backwards unless we are end of times, and we're not there. And if it's only moving forward, the natural evolution of Web 2 is Web 3. We're going to go there. We're going to see blockchain integrated into a Web 3 ecosystem. And we're going to see these kinds of companies make the leap from Web 2 to Web 3. And I just think this is one that everybody needs to step back, realize this is the way it works, and understand how technology innovates. And once they do that, then they can step back and just remember they were bad talking Amazon when Amazon was seeing these early woes that they were really just losing money and bleeding out. And of course, Amazon was able to pull out and become, one of the legendary stocks out there in the market. Here's a couple of news breaks I wanted you guys to listen into. This is a good one right here.
Intelligence technology right now, probably as much as any of the other firms, if not more so. And I think that will eventually pay off in terms of better shareholder communication, better customer communication, better advertising, and more revenues. I think that nobody's focused on that, and we are. I think it's a cheap stock, but I have no near-term optimism with regard to where the earnings are going to be.
Yeah, and
so
is that because even though those fundamentals and those longer-term investments in AI and how that's going to benefit social media, et cetera, even though those might be in place, in the near term, they're still spending $10 billion a year on the metaverse, and maybe the stock's going to move as it did in the past when they said they were going to spend a bunch of money on content moderation and CapEx. When they pulled that back, the stock popped up. Is it sort of dependent on what Meta signals as far as what its spending is going to be on some of those things that aren't going to pan out for a few years?
I don't think he's going anyplace, and I think nobody's going to tell him what to do. Hopefully he will listen, and I think he's got to improve his entertainment product. But conversely, one of the problems they face in a world where Apple is protecting people's privacy, and we love Apple, is how do you target without getting somebody's information and making inappropriate use of it? You have to understand the people that are using your
All right, so I want to
service.
stop it right there. I want to stop it right there because they kind of go into this quite a bit, and there's a lot happening around this that I think needs to be broke down. First of all, it's old school investors looking at this technology company, and remember, many of these people probably didn't even invest in Facebook in the very beginning when they were trying to figure out what it does. And I do want to break down a little bit more around something else that Kevin had to say. I'm going to show you that one too. Let me jump to this one real quick. Here, let's jump to this one.
You know, we have a big loss in Meta, like many investors have. We're starting to face year-end, tax loss selling kicks into play, but that wasn't the reason. Clearly, the move into the metasphere and the model that's going to exist when it exists is way out there. Everybody knows that. But when I start to see activists beat it up and start to push on every single angle, this is before the note, the rumors are in the street that many shareholders were unhappy and pushing at the company. So you know that is going to put pressure on the stock, just from the fact that shareholders like me are facing year-end and saying, I've got to sell some of my losers. So between now and December 15th, the stock is going to be under tremendous pressure because it's an institutional holding around 2.5%. When people look through a reason to own it going forward in a slowing economy, it's really hard to stay long. And I'm just like everybody else. I looked at it and said, where can I deploy this capital elsewhere? There's many other options where there's great value and less pressure on this whole metaverse issue. And I sold it, and we took a huge hit on it. Sometimes you get it wrong. I got it wrong on Facebook/Meta. And now I'm willing to move on and look at it again in the future. I'm willing to look at this stock again when you can prove to me what metaverse looks like and what the business model's like.
Okay.
Because
Perfect. So there you had OLeary basically saying he got it wrong. And I understand that, there's some things that I think a lot of people will be doing in the near term right now, especially around this is and he is right. This is going to take a tax loss opportunity out there for many of these people. You can kind of see this Bloomberg tweet right here, 20% down. This was after hours trading, much what I was showing the other night or last night when this was going live. But again, I think that everybody might be looking at this in the wrong light. Now, I could be wrong in the sense that Meta, it's going to see some pain, and we're going to see some continued pain. I think this is going to boil down to the appetite of the company itself, of Mark Zuckerberg, and what it might look like. You've got Brad Gerstner, who's one of the biggest investors out there. He's been pushing on this, very activist style investor. Here's a tweet from Gareth coming in. It says Meta at 106 Reminds me of Netflix when it was thrown out with the window in early 2020 and traded down to 165, now back to 300. I'm a buyer down here, and it may take 6 to 12 months. I'm kind of in the camp with Gareth here. And the reason behind this, again, as you guys know, I'm very pro-tech. I believe that innovation is going to go forward. Unfortunately, I think a lot of what you're going to see here on the videos that we're showing you today, guys, is unfortunately, I think it's, I hate to say this, but I think it's just an old way of thinking. What we are about to embark on is something that we have not seen, and there is no investor out there that can say that they were there at the beginning of Amazon, that I can see that is a prolific investor that's out on media talking about their evolution of Amazon and maybe even their evolution of Salesforce.com, Oracle, all those initial companies that kind of came out of Silicon Valley. And in the early stages, this is pre-MySpace, guys. Remember, this is mid-90s when all that was happening. And that was when we saw an innovation split that was dynamic, meaning all this massive moves and all the things we're seeing in blockchain. And then here comes 2000 and we saw .bomb happen. Everybody was doing exactly what we're seeing right now. And that is coming back in, you know, poo-pooing on all of these companies that just don't know what they're doing and didn't have a solution, many of which did not. But you cannot go into the next evolution with what I would still argue is the best tech company that's come out of Silicon Valley in Facebook, even though, and I'm not a fan of Facebook, I'm not a fan of collecting users' data, I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. But you can't take a company that has that capability and that maybe has come to the light and said, ooh, wait a minute, maybe we need to reinvent ourselves. It's possible. You can reinvent yourself. I think Twitter might be getting ready to step into that shadow right now with Musk taking over the lead. It's very possible we could see Twitter reinventing itself as well. There is a shift afoot. And I think the smart investors, now, if you need a tax loss, that's a different scenario. I do that all the time. I've got a bunch of losers this year. I took some gains this year. I need to take a tax loss and be able to offset some of those gains. It's just smart business. And I would agree with Kevin OLeary on that point. But to the point that people are bailing on this, I think is wrong. Another thing that analyst said right here, I just want to bring his face back up. This guy right here, the other thing that said that sickens me is this whole situation with Apple, of how Wall Street believes that Apple is somehow the savior. Let me tell you guys, I'm an Apple user, I'm an Apple lover, but this is BS, okay? Apple is after one thing, and that is to lock you into an ecosystem that you can never escape from. I know it, and everybody that's probably using an Apple device out there knows that. This MacBook right here, I'm holding, I have to use this product because some of the tool sets that they just ingrain in being able to lock you into the system. That's a problem that I think technology at some point in the future will overcome, and it will become device agnostic. You won't have to worry about whether or not you're on the blue text or the green text. You won't have to worry about all of these. Everything will integrate. And I think that's where Web3 changes all of this. And that could be a big factor that might actually be something that's scaring Apple a little bit. Here you've got Apple's VP Greg Joswiak says metaverse is a word he will never use. You know, I love it when these guys say this because this goes on the record books. And it was the same time that internet was a word I would never use, said Bill Gates. Those are the kind of things, the stupid statements that these executives believe because they are so far away from what's really happening at the surface, which is the users. And this is something that I continue to fight with on Apple, just their ecosystem, which is starting to deteriorate, even though they have great products. The fact that they are not moving in this space tells me it's lack of vision by Tim Cook. It's a lack of vision, and they continue to put pressure on the creators, which is going to basically bite them in the butt eventually. And all of this that we're talking about Meta today, wait just a minute. This is going to be happening with Apple in the very near future. So we're just go back to this time code. You're watching this in the future. Understand what I'm telling you. Apple's going to face the music at some point when they continue to see the fall off of creators and new innovation and amazing innovation in Web3 because they're too headstrong on their way or the highway. This bull crap about protecting our privacy and all those kind of things is only locking you into an ecosystem of which you cannot escape. This is something that is a little crazy right now, and I think everybody's overlooking what the potential is here for sure. I want to go back to another clip of another analyst that's going this direction. And let me click off closed captions for you guys.
The investor question is, can you buy Meta, the stock, if you don't believe in the metaverse? Is that fundamentally disruptive to the investment thesis? And that's a really hard question to answer. I think you can. I think there's a there to the metaverse. I think Meta as a stock is worth more because they invest in the metaverse. Would I prefer that they invest $5 billion? Yes, rather than the 10 to 15 billion that they're spending. But the business is cheap. Their stock is cheap enough that I'm willing to give them a little bit of pass on all that investment spend. But that's really the make or break on the stock. And that's why investors are revolting today. They don't like the metaverse spend.
Yeah, they don't like the name.
Let me pause that there for a second, because there are some things he said there. And you want to look at both angles here if you're investing in Meta, but more importantly, if you're investing in crypto. And what I mean by that is that metaverse in general and its potential for what crypto can do, blockchain in specific, especially around gaming and kind of that future. Believe me, what Zuckerberg is trying to do right now is he is on an arms race, even though he doesn't have a lot of people that are out there in public saying that they're in this arms race with him. He's doing this very publicly, which is a little interesting of why he didn't go a little bit under the radar. Obviously, being a public company, he has to reveal these kind of costs, and he knew that he was going to spend this kind of money. But remember, Apple is very good at hiding where that research and engineering costs go. Whether or not Apple is doing something, I cannot believe Apple's not playing and getting ready to do something. They can call it whatever, the Appleverse. But the point is we're going to see a Web3 integration if Apple wants to stay around as a tech company in the future. I think Zuckerberg is just putting it all out there. And I kind of, maybe for the first time, I'm like, wow, this is a guy that's trying to do something around changing the next generation. Now, granted, he could also be creating another walled garden. I hope that is not the case. I hope that he opens it up. We'll see how he does it with creators. He kind of fell on his face the first time that this happened with Facebook. I think they're learning things, but I'm still, if you're just from a stock aspect, I think there's some potential here. But more importantly, I think as a metaverse play, this is the company that is either going to make the metaverse or break it. And this is going to get interesting as we continue to watch this unfold, because it's I think the pressure is going to be on so highly on what they're on what they're talking about. Here you go, right here. Yeah, this is coming in from funny. I love these kind of tweets right here. Metaverse will be a big thing over the next decade. Yeah, we'll see how it all comes out. I'm just, I'm very positive on this. Let's listen to some of the earnings call right here, because this is Zuckerberg himself kind of talking about the situation as he presents Q3.
It's a pretty big surface. I know that sometimes when we ship a product, there's a meme where people say, hey, you're spending all this money and you've produced this thing. And it's I think that's not really the right way to think about it. I think that, there's a number of different products and platforms that we're building where we think we're doing leading work that will become, launching consumer products and then, eventually mature products at different cadences, in different periods of time over the next, 5 to 10 years. And in all of these areas, I think the teams are making very good progress. And I think that this will be fundamentally important for the future. Nothing that we're seeing suggests that that's not going to be the case. We are pacing a bunch of the investments given the kind of macroeconomic environment and the rest of the business performance. But ultimately, look, I get that a lot of people might disagree with this investment. But from what I can tell, I think that this is going to be a very important thing, and I think it would be a mistake for us to not focus on any of these areas, which I think are going to be fundamentally important to the future. So,
all right, so right there, fundamentally important to the future. He thinks it's going to be kind of the next gen. I would trust him right now. Of all of Silicon Valley, If you look at, just think about it for a second. Just look at social media in general. All right. If you look at ByteDance and what's happening over TikTok, we've got problems. Instagram, obviously owned by Facebook or Meta. You've got Twitter in shambles now. Hopefully, Musk can come in and resurrect that in some way. And Facebook is basically a cash cow. And remember, you've got elections coming up in 2024. That means a lot of spend in the latter half of 2023 and 2024, really starting to move in that direction. That in itself has some uniqueness around it. They're going to continue to spend in this space, and I think they're going to eventually prove everybody wrong, and they're going to come out ahead. And it may be one of those scenarios where this stock goes back to $300 or maybe 400. We don't know. But I tell you one thing, if you look at the just natural evolution of where Silicon Valley has come from and what they need to replace right now in Web 2, this may be the only company that actually has some kind of idea of how to do it, because everybody else is struggling in Web 2 to figure out this transition into Web 3. Now, I will say this. I am not, and I said before, I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg in the essence of the fact that he has been selling user data. He's been, maximizing on the scenario of kids and all those kind of things, people using social media and that endorphin hit that people get on likes and etc. I don't like that, but I think eventually at some point, this company is going to figure out the solution in which it can kind of go forward. I hope. Now, granted, will we see a blockchain competitor that comes out and maybe goes head-to-head with them? I don't know if it would be head-to-head in the near future, but I think yes. But here's the big point is that if you don't have them lead the way, there will not be another competitor that comes. Apple, I'm still very intrigued with what they could do, but at the same time, I'm also watching what they are doing, and they seem to be backtracking a lot on what they've been doing in terms of system design, even the port situation on the MacBooks and all that kind. They kind of backed off all that. That was their vision of a portless device, kind of the scenario they're facing with the iPhone right now, which is really a legacy product and is not competing at all against Android. I mean, they're getting their B handed to them. The only reason they're in the game, they've locked you into an ecosystem. And I am an investor in Apple. It's not that I'm mad at them or I don't think, but I've looked at Apple for many years and I bought it very early. So it's going to be here. But at some point, I may swap that stock for something else like Bitcoin. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, as the metaverse continues to grow. We'll see how this plays out. But I think he does need to be in a position where he maybe softens his spend. I mean, we're in a position, but I think he also might be able to buy more for his dollar coming soon. Not right now because costs are so high. Let's go to another clip here, and then we'll get into final thoughts.
Saw the print, listen to the call. You thought what?
Well, it's interesting, Andrew, because if you go back a few quarters ago, it was really the first time that Mark Zuckerberg got up onto an earnings call and said, look, we're facing this incredible threat called TikTok. If you remember, that was in late January of 2022. And it was so interesting to hear him yesterday basically talk about how their substantial investments in Reels and sort of the shift to making Facebook and Instagram more video-centric was actually increasing time spent on both of those apps. I don't think most investors believe that. I think most investors have looked at sort of Facebook and Instagram as sort of losers relative to the growth of TikTok. And so here's Mark trying to come out after sort of looking vulnerable earlier in the year, saying, no, we're actually growing share. We're actually taking time spent. And, at the same time, it's not translating into revenue, right? Like obviously revenue is going in the wrong direction. Part of that's obviously the economy. Part of that is obviously some of the Apple privacy changes that were made. But I think
all right, I want to pause that there for a second because he hits on a lot of points. Apple privacy changes. Again, this is a problem with creators. It's a problem where they're taking, and eventually this will be a problem for us in the crypto space because this will roll downhill. Costs will start to translate to the users. And as long as Apple continues to do this kind of, pillaging within the creator communities and the innovation communities, they're going to continue to see a lot of pushback. So yes, I agree that his point was that Zuckerberg sees an opening here for a new tech, and he doesn't want to be number two again. And he is right. TikTok did take over a very new way of committing, of really delivering social media. And I'm not a big fan of TikTok, but I am a big fan of how they were able to grow a business. This being ByteDance, a Chinese company. Now, all of that being the case, remember ByteDance also now, allegedly collecting user data, geo data, all these kind of stuff. This is not good stuff, okay, guys? They're collecting information on you. But the point is that Instagram, purchased by Kevin Systrom, by Facebook, they kind of knew what was up. They kind of squandered the years of Instagram's early days in not innovating, and TikTok came in and took the cherry. And I think, Zuck is looking at that and going, hey, listen, shame on me that time, but this time, no way. And I think that's why he's leading out first and in a position where he's ready to risk a lot on a new innovation that most likely will be the next generation of technology. And I think, now granted, everybody can say this because you look back at the early days of the internet, everybody kind of bet on that early, that were in my era of working in tech and being in the Valley and all those kind of things. And yes, it was a big risk. Everybody was taking that big risk, but everybody believed in it, just like what I'm seeing right now in blockchain. And I think there's a lot of similarities to this. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a foregone conclusion that's going to happen, because we may see Web 2 that does some sort of spin. We see some sort of slight integration of blockchain, and maybe that is kind of a 2.5 that people have been talking about. Sure, that's a possibility, but I think Meta plays into this for sure in the future. So, Future of Metaverse Gaming CEOs share their visions, putting the emphasis on fun. I think this is going to be a factor here. And listen, we got a guy that just got the new MetaQuest 2 in, so we're going to get a chance to see more of this. But I think his play here is pretty interesting. Here's gaming CEO Phil Spencer said much about when he asked about the metaverse. Says, while loosely understood, the shared immersive virtual event, metaverse as a project by platforms, it's going to dominate, kind of the whole area around it, mainly because of what the potential is from a device standpoint. And I think that is the future, because right now, the subpar graphics, et cetera, the things that we talk about here on the show, and we've talked about this within gaming and all that kind of thing, but he does see that there's a great opportunity here, because it's kind of like the game industry. When it's first starting, there were crappy games, there were terrible graphics, all this is very new. And we just are in an era in which we are expecting advancement in technology in a different way, because we have seen it happen in just mobile alone. But if you go all the way back to 2006, when the iPhone was really brought onto the scene, think about that. The amount of time between that phone and where we are today in mobile devices, all right? I almost feel like the iPhone hasn't changed, but that's my point, is that the amount of device advancements. I mean, we have now a supercomputer in our pocket. So this evolution is not going to stop, and I think it's going to be huge. The other thing they talk about in this article, Metaverse is going to emphasize on entertainment, and I totally agree. This is going to be the future of really good games, really immersive experiences. And if you've looked at MetaQuest before, they have some pretty amazing stuff within it, but it's just getting started right there. So I think a lot of this is really just beginning for sure. Getting better all the time. This is the other factor that's going to play into this. Here was a nice, interesting little piece on even Zilliqa. Said it's releasing its Web3 Web3 focused gaming console. This is coming in next year. Again, I just think there's more movement in this space that a lot of people are not giving it credit for, and everybody understands it. I think the core of what Metaverse is and can be has yet to truly unveil itself. And when it does, all of these naysayers are going to sit back and realize, duh, that was the internet 30 years ago. Maybe I need to pay attention here for a minute. Here's from Daily Hodl. Macro guru Raul Powell says crypto and Web3 about to explode 300x in market value. Here's his timeline. He gets into a lot of this, and I am in agreement with Raul on this, in the sense, now, will it be a 300x? I don't know if that's the case, but the opportunity is just too grand. It's too great. If you're a technologist, you've seen what I've seen. You've seen the scenarios that play out in this. There are so many, uniquenesses of where this market will go in the opportunity of media, entertainment, sports is going to be huge, fashion, monstrous. obviously the gaming play. You get all of that coming into then we start to see the rest of business start to pile in, and that'll get into medical and retail and all those other things. But it's just like exactly the same thing, including porn. Yes, we'll be talking about porn in the metaverse, and it will probably be one of the greatest things that's ever happened out there for sure. All right, we're going to get into some questions. I know we have a bunch happening on the poll, so I want to jump over to that real quick. And let's take a look at the poll. What do we got? All right, should Zuck slow down? Don't anger investors. We don't want to hurt them. We want to make sure all of the Wall Street people make their money. And then no, keep spending, because this, I would agree, guys. This is a very critical time right now. We are in a bear market. A lot of projects that might have had a chance may end up running out of runway, meaning no money. And they're going to go away. That's stifling innovation because of why? Well, Meta's over here losing all this market cap. Then you've got investors saying, no, I'm not going to put money in Andreessen. I'm not going to drop in there because you guys are investing in Web3. You got Andreessen, A16Z, all these guys continuing to pile money in. Eventually, they may be faced with traditional, family offices and all those others that are kind of moving in that space. So you got to be careful here. I think that this is what lures what people believe is smart investors into this quasi feel that they're doing the right thing. Kind of like what OLeary's doing. He dumps Meta, but remember, OLeary's been going around the crypto scene. He hadn't come on our show. We tried to get him on our show, but he's been investing in all these different altcoins, and all of a sudden those are bad, and now only these 3 or 4 are good. I mean, okay, sure, sometimes things arise and it could make you change that, but I don't know. So far, Web3, 5, OLeary, 2 is where I see it right now. And we'll see how Solana plays out for him. All right, let's go in over some questions. William Lynch, can you please talk about average price? How do you get my average price down if I paid too much a year ago and never sold? Yeah, well, average price is pretty simple. If you buy a stock for 100 and then you get to buy it for a 50, you're at 75. So it's just that simple. You're buying. That's why a lot of people will try to buy when a stock does get in distress. And a lot of people will look at Meta right now because, this could be one of those stocks that, dare I say, could go down to $50. And if it did, I agree back with Gareth's tweet early in the show. I think this is one of those that you just have to get in, buy it, and then hold it out and understand where this, and have faith of where this market is going. And it's definitely one of those that I think will happen. All right, Crypto Gamer, thanks for the super chat there. Apple iPhone versus Solana saga with 5G Helium. Listen, I'll tell you what, if Solana can pull this off and they can get really a good integration, anybody that's got a Web3 phone that's sexy and has the capacity to truly be Web3, I think absolutely kills the iPhone. I know you don't want me here to say that, but I think Apple has to make a move because they're exhausting in the lack of innovation that they have in their devices. It's just crazy. All right, so here we go. I bet Apple comes out with a VR headset with shock equal to the first iPhone. Okay, so there you go. If they do that, they will be the Johnny-come-lately because they didn't take the foresight to say we need to move to the market and show that we're innovating and show that people need to get scared. And when I say people, other tech companies, and really the only other tech company they got to worry about, 2 other tech companies they got to worry about is Microsoft and Facebook right now, or Meta. That's really what it boils down to. All right, so Tommy says, agree in theory, but when you lose 70% of your market cap, it can affect what you're able to do. For sure, no doubt. But guess what? When you have that kind of market cap deflation, and you have the kind of market situation that we're in right now, guys, and this gets back to what I talk about on the macro, it's time to start cutting heads. There's a lot of fat in these systems. You have to take those. Twitter's going through this right now. What is it? 70% of those people are going to be gone. This is going to hit hard, and we're still moving. We haven't stopped the bleeding yet. So just get ready, people. It's going to, and I think Mark is going to have to make that decision. Zuckerberg's going to have to make the decision. People can hate Mark all they want. He's not stupid. I'm not a fan of him as a person, but as CEO, respect. I would agree there. Same kind of thing. I don't like his decisions. I don't like the things that Facebook stands for, but I like technology. And technology is what wins. At some point in the future, all of this groundwork that's being laid through billions and billions of dollars of investment is only going to open up the opportunity for innovation. So just pay attention. Money he's spending could pale in significance of what he could be achieved moving forward. For sure. Think about the value of what's being transacted on the internet today. Hundreds of trillions of dollars. That's the potential of where this all goes. Rafa Lee, I'm afraid the anger at Meta can affect all metaverse projects. Yes, but only by, the stale pale males, I think, are out there going to be getting that, in the sense that it's the Wall Street bankers, the investors. They're mad because they're not getting their returns, and they're not seeing those kinds of performances from a company they had faith in that would do these things, but they don't understand technology and the kind of shifts that we see in cycles. And they should understand their cycles. The cycles happen in investing all the time. So understand cycles in tech. Gala is a good metaverse play to me. Games, music, film. Gala, obviously, full disclosure, they're a channel partner. So we talk about them a lot. I believe in the metaverse, Web3. I believe in crypto and blockchain. I do not believe in Zuck or Meta. They are toxic, doing more hard than good. Well, let's think about that for a second. If we didn't have Steve Jobs, what would Steve be doing right now? What do you guys think Steve would be doing? Yeah, there you go. He'd be on their fifth. Yeah, I would agree with that one, Tommy. If Steve was here, they'd be on their fifth, for sure. He'd be in the metaverse. He'd probably have wallets on the iPhones, for sure. Everything would be open. We wouldn't have these creator bull crap things that are going. He'd be inviting all of Web3 into the App Store. Get, build, make, design. He'd fund incubators and Y Combinator, you name it. He'd be throwing the kitchen sink at innovation because he was a different kind of person. That's not who's running Apple today, so we'll see. All right, guys, we're going to get into, I know it's a crazy rant, but it's fun. But it helps you understand kind of what we have in front of us in terms of Web3, in terms of blockchain, in terms of Bitcoin, and all of these great innovative products that are coming down the pipeline. Pay attention. Right now, you're getting a chance to witness something that not many people have witnessed before, and that is the birth of possibly something that will run the world in the very near future. So stay tuned for all that good stuff. If you're not in on the Diamond Circle, get in. It's really easy and it's free, so do all that good stuff. If you want to catch me out on Twitter, it's at Paul Barron. Elon's Twitter, at Paul Barron. And other than that, we'll catch you next time right here on Tech Bath.